I am so excited to be back with you for our Step Up MasterClass featuring Bev Kearney, presented by Worth Advisors. A huge shout out to Glenn Wright and Cy Pugh with Worth Advisors.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Johnny Allen here with a Step Up. And before we get into our evening, we want to pause for just a moment and recognize that over a year ago, 8 stars ascended to heaven. Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gigi, and 8 members of the Mamba family. Felicia and I were fortunate enough to be in LA at the Staples Center the night Kobe scored 81 points over Toronto. I was always a fan. I think Felicia may have become a fan that night. So rest in peace, Kobe and family. We all miss you. Again, welcome to a Step Up virtual session. Our mission of a Step Up is to educate, connect, equip, and inspire current and future generations of coaches. Felicia and I are excited about our outstanding board of directors who has the vision, the leadership, and the wisdom to help support this program continue to grow. With their support, we have created monthly virtual master classes. And those classes will lead us up to the Step Up Symposium in May, where we'll host a master class every month. At the Step Up Symposium, we will feature Assistant Coaches Hall of Fame, a Step Up Symposium Next Level, as well as our Head Coaches Executive Academy. But tonight is going to be very special.
Tonight is going to be special, Johnny. And I'd like to give a quick shout out to our behind the scenes logistics team, Aisha Foy, who is our logistics team technical manager. I'd like to shout out Martina Wood, our creative team leader, and Selena Castillo, who has been our analytics and one of our graphic designers. So thank you, ladies. You helped make this happen tonight. Our first masterclass, Johnny and I were very intentional about making sure that the person who would present to you tonight had a story and a testimony to share. Bev Kearney, I would say, has been to hell and back and came out on the other side full of joy, peace, and perspective.
And victory.
So you all are going to want to lean in just a little bit because Bev is going to wow you. This is going to be good. Bev's going to talk a little bit about how to create a life that feeds your soul and that inspires other people around you to unleash the greatness that lies within. Bev, Johnny and I have known for years that you were special. Thank you so much for taking the time today to share a bit of your journey with us. Now I'd like to introduce you to John Anderson, our MC moderator extraordinaire for this evening. John Anderson is an anchor on the Emmy Award-winning daily studio show, Sports Center. ESPN's flagship sports news program. John is most often seen on the 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time edition of the program, both in the studio and from locations at major sporting events. Prior to Sports Center, you might have seen John on ABC's Wipeout, an extreme obstacle course series on ABC. He's a graduate of the University of Missouri School of Journalism, and he was a 4-year member of the men's track and field team, competing in the high jump. In his senior year, he was captain of the squad. John has won a number of awards for his outstanding work in sports journalism. He's a native of Green Bay, Wisconsin, and loves everything, all things Wisconsin. And I'm really proud of the fact that we have a personal connection through my time at the University of Iowa and the number of family members that he has sprinkled across the heartland of America in Iowa. So, John Anderson, Bev Kearney, have a great time. Welcome to a Step Up's first masterclass presented by Worth Advisors.
Wow, Bev, I don't know if we're going to be able to live up to all of that. They put a ton of
I don't
pressure
think
on
so,
us.
John.
My goodness. Certainly, we want to say our welcomes as well and tell everyone how much we appreciate that they have found us here tonight on all the various platforms that are out there. You've got the Twitter and you've got Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. I do work for ESPN. I am a little sad about the Green Bay Packers losing, but I'm going to fight on because, quite frankly, I look forward to Bev's information, her insight, your inspiration. It's also a whole hour that I don't have to talk about Tom Brady, which, believe me, only 2 days after the championship game is wearing me out already. Before we get started, Bev, I want to do just some quick bookkeeping here to make sure people know, in addition to this hour, which is going to be terrific if you want more, and I know they will, you can go to www.stepupinc.org. It's right there on your screen to register for the bonus question and answer session. That's going to be after we finish up here around 8 o'clock Eastern, another half hour after that. Again, just www.stepupinc.org. Put it in your browser, you'll go right to it. Then put your questions in, hashtag Ask Bev. That's in the chat box. And then somebody on the team here will share those. Or if we get into it, we're just going to have somebody raise their hand and we'll get to you and we'll make sure that you get to talk to Bev. Whether it's something that you and I missed in this hour, something that touches their heart, something that's on their mind, something that resonates, and we'll make sure that we have some byplay and some exchange there with the people that are watching us here tonight. Even though we can't be together, hopefully we are connected here through Zoom and by the message that we're going to hear from Bev. And while you're watching this class right here, you could, if you hear something that resonates and touches you that you want to talk about, you just get into the group chat, type it in. It'll be on the side here. You can, the fellow viewers can all see what you're thinking. We can try to address some of that if it comes to it. And hopefully, as I said, even though we're not all in the same room, we are to some degree connected here tonight. All right, I'm going to introduce Bev here real quick. And listen, Bev, I had to pick a few things out. Otherwise, the whole hour would just be me talking about you. And while we want to talk about you, what we want is you to inspire us. So I will just say that the woman that is truly here is a masterclass quality human being. As an athlete, she competed at Auburn and earned the school's Lifetime Achievement Award. 7, you see it on the screen, 7 NCAA championships while coaching at the University of Texas in their track and field team. Had more than 250 All-Americans. There's been more than 15 people that have represented her coaching internationally at the Olympics. I counted at least 4 Hall of Fames. I'll be honest, I got tired. I'm like, how many Hall of Fames does one person have to go to? It seems excessive, but I'm thrilled for you. Awarded the BET Legends Honor. My goodness, look at the company you're keeping. Maya Angelou, Stevie Wonder, the Tuskegee Airmen. This is I'm going to go on and on, but I can't because, as I said, we want to hear from you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will turn it over for an opening statement before we start exchanging some ideas. Here is the great Bev Kearney.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. And my prayer is that something that's shared between John and I will somehow enhance your journey. The one thing that I would like to start with is just something very simple, which is, champions are developed over time. They are revealed in a moment, but they are developed over time. And sometimes those pathways are forgotten when we see the end result. And today we're going to delve into the pathways as well as the end result of what it's like to maneuver through the obstacles to achieve whatever it is you so desire in life. Because a champion isn't just about winning, it's about how you go through the process of losing. Because there's absolutely no way to win without losing. There's absolutely no way to teach without learning. So hopefully through my mistakes and through my triumphs, you will learn and therefore you will teach. And as you teach, therefore you learn. So we will begin the cycle, John.
Let's begin with just then your definition of what makes or what would define greatness and championship greatness.
Greatness is based upon ability. That's it. If one person can score 1 point, and that 1 point is, and we need to understand that 1 pointer is as important to that person as the person that can score 10 points. And that greatness isn't assigned. It's decided upon by the individual. Our job as coaches is to enhance the journey, but not decide who's going to be great. So you come in with a dream, and achieving that dream is achieving your level of greatness. So sometimes we see greatness as first place. But think about it, John. We just talked about Tom Brady. Tom Brady will be a legendary figure. He already is.
Mm-hmm.
But we may not see all the people that block for him and the level of greatness that they have to achieve in order for him to achieve his greatness. So one goes hand in hand. Everybody brings value to the table. And I think that every coach and every leader needs to understand that it is not the one who's most visible, but the one that's most passionate.
If you go to your website, bevkearney.com, you list yourself in, I don't know, it's not alphabetically, and I don't know if these are how you view them, but visionary, coach, author, speaker, consultant. I'd like to go to the first one since it's right there, even though alphabetically it's behind. Talk to me about creating and defining that championship vision that you kind of need to get started with.
Everything that we do starts from a thought. And that thought is defined as an ideal. And it can come and be inspired from so many different places. The problem is that as they come up, we disqualify them. Well, no, I can't do that. You know, we filter through all of our thoughts and all of those visions that we have, and we decide which ones are achievable. I would say I'm one of the most ignorant people out there because everything that came to my mind, I thought I could do. I didn't have a filter. And then once I decided that this is what I could achieve, I stayed the pathway. So I didn't get in the way of what I was blessed to feel in the moment. And it didn't make sense. I remember being at Toledo University. And I was co-head coach at 22 or 23 years old, like one of the youngest Division I coaches in history. And in my mind, Karen Dennis was at Ohio State. Karen Dennis was at Michigan State. Mamie Rollins was at Ohio State. And somehow I decided at Toledo University at 23 years old that I could out-recruit them because I realized I didn't have enough talent to beat them, but I should be able to out-recruit them. Like, who thinks like that? And that's that part of you that decides I'm not going to filter a vision that was gifted to me. And all too often, we share our visions with others and people talk us out of it. And if we do get to the point where even before we get to that point, sometimes we talk ourselves out of it. Like, that don't make no sense.
To sum that up, and this would make a catchy book title, Believe It, Speak It, Do It, is what you're talking about. It is your book. I don't need the whole audio book, but I don't really want the dust cover either. I want you to expand on that just a little bit more for the audience.
That really evolved from my evolvement spiritually. And I think my greatest evolvement spiritually, I think it was a long journey because it's always been there. But there's an unconscious spirituality that we possess. And then there's a conscious, meaning that I haphazardly use the inner power that I was blessed with, which is believing in something, speaking it into existence, and then moving on it. You know, oftentimes we falter between doubt and belief. And then to me, there's another stage that moves you to a stage of belief and faith where you falter between. Consciously, you move between faith and knowing. And when I got conscious, I began to understand faith and knowing, which means that I understood the power of my beliefs. truly was passionate and committed to a belief, I had the power, and only I had the power to decide whether I achieved it or didn't. And then I began to listen to what I spoke about, what I listened to, and was it in harmony with what I wanted to achieve? And I began to filter through those things and only began to really try to harness the things that were in harmony with what I decided to do. And then you move. A lot of times we put, instead of thought, word, deed, we put deed up front. So we're moving from a place of doubt. That's almost from a place of disaster. So your basic fundamental ideology starts with, what is your belief system? And how deeply are you committed to that belief that you have that you can accomplish something? And then, are your words in harmony with what your level of desire is? And then the movement becomes easy. So everything I do is not based upon like and dislike, John. It's based upon being beneficial or unbeneficial. I read an excessively amount of material. Why? Because we can prepare our bodies. We can learn the technical components of everything that we do. That's what education is. So I have a master's degree, so I'm educated enough. But there's a part of you that really feels and knows, and that's that part of that spiritual growth that occurred knowingly for me that kind of moved me to another level.
By
I
the way,
don't know
you made
if all of that makes sense.
It does. And listen, I compliment you on, you went from at the start of that answer to being the dumbest person you thought maybe you knew to then you had a master's degree. So, I mean, you made a giant leap there just in that answer. But when you said, I can't, right? And we kind of go, you get people and they're like, I can't. And then they maybe go, well, I won't, which sort of admits that they can, but they just don't want to.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, I'd like to, which is, we're getting closer. How to finally we want, I will. How do you, and when you talk about like those, that seems like an easy a line of ascension, but those are really hard movements to make.
Yeah,
so if you're a coach, how do you move me along that line from I can't to I will?
Don't make assumptions. That's the most difficult thing that any leader has, is don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions why a person feels a certain way. Help them to explore what they fear. Because here's where success really evolves from. And I learned this very early, which is when what I desire becomes greater than what I fear, I succeed. Success is not void of fear. The worst thing you could tell somebody is don't be scared. Like, what? Like, do you really think I'm voluntarily feeling this way? No. So if it were that simple, then everyone could do it. But what makes it so difficult is that we try to avoid people of fear. No. I just want to find what drives you greater than your fears. And then you'll face your fears and they'll begin to dissipate in the face of your strongest desires. So instead of being against something, I'm always for something. Instead of trying to figure out what they did wrong, I'm trying to figure out what they can do better. So it's all about your perspective on things. And too often people become, John, I actually had someone say this to me. You know, I have this gift. And I said, what is that gift? And they said, I have the gift of seeing what's wrong. I said, I don't know. I don't envy you on that one, because the last thing I want to do is be spotting what's wrong with everybody.
Well, yeah, it's nice to anticipate a problem, but I'm not sure you want to couch it quite like that. I think I would go with, what do I desire? Is it more than what I fear? When you are the head coach, you are essentially a CEO. People we have watching tonight, I'm sure, if you're a business industry leader, it's no different. You have your team, and you are at the top of that. How do you structure the culture you want and maintain the culture you want to achieve greatness, to achieve championships?
I think that is answered as a whole and as a individual. And the reason I
We
say
got
that,
39 minutes. Go what you got to go.
okay, individually, you have to find and get every single person, or as many of it, as high a percentage of your people vested in accomplishing something. Because if people aren't vested, at some point, they will hit the pressure, and the pressure will tell you what you didn't want to see in the first place. So that's why preparation is so important. That's why when I studied the military perspective, they wanted to see beforehand who could handle the pressure. So that's why the intensity of workouts, that's why the balance of workouts, that's why not going in with a preconception of who somebody is important, because you want to see the truth of what exists and what you're working with, and then you can move from there. If I don't know where I am, I have no way of getting to where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. The second thing, I got to know where I want to be. So it's about telling the truth. I often have athletes that say, I want to be an All-American. I said, okay, so you can get dead last, eighth, and you're going to be an All-American. Is that okay?
Right.
No, coach, that's not what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to be last. I want to be in the top 3. I said, well, that's a whole nother demand. So it's getting to the essence of what every person wants, realizing that, and then holding yourself and holding them accountable. And then all of that, their individual goals combined with your individual goals, creates the harmony to create your outcome.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be void of self. And the purpose has to be greater than you. Because when your self becomes involved, emotions get involved, and all of a sudden you're distracted. So it's about knowing the outcome. And John, this may be not the most acceptable thing to say, but I hope it's the most understood thing to say. I had to make a decision very early, because I started coaching when I was coaching people my age at 22, men and women's
Mm-hmm.
track at Indiana State. In fact, I would go home and live in the dorm and kick their butt all day. And we would stay in the same graduate housing dorm. But here's what I learned, is that it wasn't so much about whether they liked or disliked me, but was what I doing right in terms of what they desired to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start like and dislike, you make judgments. You make judgments on how people feel about you, and then it's not about their goal. Or you make decisions on how you feel about somebody else, and it's not about their goal. You don't have that luxury when you're a leader. What becomes of vital importance is what is their outcome. I would rather for you to be mad at me for pushing you today than to see you heartbroken and devastated because I didn't hold up my end of the bargain and prepare you properly for what you wanted to accomplish 6 to 8 months from now. And that's a difficult decision. And that decision has to be made before you go in that boardroom. Because the minute you go in that boardroom, or the minute you go into that coaching arena, and you don't have that in mind, if you don't take out like and dislike, and you don't do what's beneficial to the goal, you become part of the problem. And that's what I never wanted to be. I never wanted to be the reason they failed. So the greatest athletes I had were the ones that pushed me, because I refused to let them get ahead of me. And some of them pushed me to learn faster than I ever thought I could. So I didn't develop into this great coach just because I came in with that, but I came in with a mindset that every single person and every single vision mattered, from my assistant coaches to myself. And the last thing I'm going to say on that is this. I also have always been very honest with myself. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. And if it's a weakness I desire not to put a lot of effort into, I always made sure I had someone else who had that strength on my staff.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be from someone being way more organized than I was. It doesn't have to be the best coach in that position, but do they feel a void that is a necessity to success? So that's where being void of ego becomes important. That's when you don't judge whether the 10-point person or the 1 point, because I've lost a championship by 1 point, but John, I've won by 1 point. So if you don't think that point counts,
Right.
you shouldn't be in the game. If you don't
Mhm.
think that janitor matters in your business, you shouldn't own a business, because everybody matters. And that's the one thing I've always understood.
And there has to be authenticity to this, right? Because kids, I don't care, athlete, you don't have to be a book smart guy. You don't have to have great ACT, whatever it is. Like, they'll see through it if they know you don't believe it. If you're just handing it to them and they go, oh, I read this in a book, you know, but you don't internalize it. You don't live that every day. Like you said, when you see them in the dorm, you only live it for the 2 hours you're at the track. They'll sniff you out here, right?
Absolutely. We went into a championship and we were down, John. We were down. And it was in 40 degrees weather and raining in Buffalo. And we sat in a room the night before the final. And everyone was looking at me and I'm looking at them like, I don't know what to say. And finally, one of the athletes asked, Angela Vaughn asked, can we still win? I said, absolutely. And someone else, Aaron Aldridge, said, well, what do we have to do? I said, you have to win, you have to win, you have to win, you have to win. I said, you got to quit pouting and score more points than what you're slated for. You may not can win, but you need to score.
Mm-hmm.
And people wondered why there was a transformation the next day in the team. And they heard about what I had said. And they asked one of the athletes, how did it feel to have so much pressure on you that you had to get 10 points? And they said, we were committed to those 10 points in the fall. Had she asked us for anything less,
Mm-hmm.
because she told us we could, we would have been disappointed. So you can't get to a championship game and get to a championship environment and expect them to win when you haven't prepared and committed to winning the whole time. You can't become a Fortune 500 company with a small business mentality. And that's just the truth of the matter.
Mm-hmm.
So being honest and being open is of vital importance. I was able to say things to athletes because I was very consistent. Whether they agreed or disagreed, I don't have control of. But I always told them the truth of where I was in that moment. And that's important. And I was always consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Always consistent in that.
Talent can vary, right? You had a Sonia Richards-Ross, which everybody knows, in her gold medal, and you had an athlete that may have scored 1 point. You may have had somebody that never scored, but you know what? They were the best teammate you could have, and they helped push others. So talent, at some point, everybody's got sort of an end to talent. There's not an end to the effort you can make. There's not an end to dedication you can show. There doesn't have to be an end to the discipline you show. How do you make that work? Because so often that's what separates this talent from this talent. How do I get that out of people?
You know, it's about, I'll tell you, Dana Riley came in, and I've had athletes like a Dana Riley in my repertoire in the past. And I've had an athlete like a Suzanne Reed, where Suzanne Reed came in and won her freshman year. And she won 3 out of 4 national championships. Dana Riley came and never qualified for nationals until her senior year, and she actually won it. I don't get to decide the developmental process of an athlete. I get to decide whether to continue to believe in them, no matter how many times they fall down. And I once told an athlete, you keep telling me what you can't do, I keep telling you what you can. And no matter how many times you fail, it doesn't change the truth of what you're capable of. Ultimately, that athlete has to make that decision. I get coaches all the time to say, how do you tell an athlete they don't have it to do what they set out to do? I said, you don't. You tell them what the demands are to meet the expectations of their goals, and let that determine if they're willing to go through that process and they're willing to meet those standards, then they will achieve it. If they're not, they will know that they have to readjust their goals based upon what their capabilities are and what their mental and spiritual capabilities are, what their inner will is, because it takes a lot of discipline to be great in anything. Don't take it for granted. People don't tell you the truth about the obstacles they face to get there. One of the most triumphant wins I had in setting history and becoming the first African American, not just African American woman, but African American period, to ever win a national championship outdoors was I lost by 1 point the year before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That loss moved us to victory.
Just curious, in the immediate aftermath, though, how do we console that? Because you get devastated. You get devastated people, clearly.
I often say this. You have to allow yourself to mourn your losses, but you can't live in it. You got to take a moment. You got to allow yourself to celebrate your victories and have that moment, but it can't last because everything keeps moving, and being present is what matters. I often tell coaches, people say the hardest thing you can do is repeat, because there is no repeat. You can't repeat yesterday. What you can do is, I won last time. That's gone. Now I'm going to focus on what do I have, who do I have, and how do I have. I knew my competitors, but I also knew my athletes better. So it's being able to read your environment, know what it's going to demand of you, and being honest with yourself. At the end of every year, coaches always have, and oh my God, don't even get into employers. They always do this evaluation thing.
Yep.
But they never self-evaluate. If the only thing I'm evaluating are the athletes and my assistant coaches, then I am putting the ominence on a failure on them. The first thing I do is do a self-evaluation, a very honest and heartfelt one. And I promise you, I always know where I lost it. Mm-hmm. There's no question. And then I start to address it. Every conversation I have, I address it from a place of where I faltered and how I can do better. And then I ask them to do the same. So personal accountability, goal accountability, individual accountability goes third.
I'm going to take a minute real quick and remind people again that 8 o'clock to 8:30, about a half hour after we're finished here, we have the special Q&A master's class available to folks. Go to www.astepupinc.org. You register there, and then you get into the bonus Q&A. Hashtag Ask Bev, put that in the chat box, and you can ask questions as well here of Bev Kearney, our guest in the Step Up MasterClass that we are so happy to be hosting here tonight. Let's talk adversity. Because most of the time, as a coach, you're coaching other kids through adversity. How do we get them by it? Listen, you had these, and these were not college, oh, I didn't win. Let's go with, how does somebody overcome, and it's been almost 2 decades ago, the car accident you were in, and you come back. I don't know where to start with the story between this car accident. There's fatalities there, and you managed to not only survive but walk and win again.
That was my moment of knowing. I actually crossed over in the middle of the street, in the middle of the interstate, actually. And it opened me up. It did. I won't say it changed. It opened me up to a different side of who I was. I was always unknowingly a very instinctive person. I've never been a perfect person. I've been a very instinctive person. So I've always, even when I made the wrong decision, I thought I was making it for the right reason. I never done anything with the intent to cause harm. And during that moment, during the accident and all the pain, it kept coming to me, you're okay. So no matter what diagnosis I got, I kept staying with that feeling that I was okay. And a friend of mine who ended up being my strongest spiritual advisor, Raymond Coleman, began to feed into me in that moment in the hospital. And it gave me clarity. He would give me things to read. We would have these long conversations. But aside from that, life prepared me for that moment, because all my life, if you read my book, you'll see all the adversity that we've gone through. And I don't know anything else. When you go through a constant state of adversity, you can't afford to get stuck on the adversity, because you're preparing yourself for what you may face next. And so I've never had a selfish mentality. And so during the accident, I actually coached from the hospital bed. And I probably said the stupidest thing anybody could say on national TV, which is on the HBO, not HBO, but it might have been whatever that program Bryant had.
That's HBO, Real Sports with Brian
Real
Gumbel.
Sports.
Yes. Yeah, that's HBO.
I said, I was fourth from a hospital bed. I was second from a wheelchair. You're in trouble when I'm on my feet. I was like, I'll be damned. You just told the whole world you're going to win. So it was said, and now you have to back it up. We're afraid to speak openly about what we desire. When I was told I would never walk again, I kept telling them I'm going to stand at Texas Relays. And I remember one of the nurses going out going, her behind need to learn how to roll over before she talk about standing up. But it was so indulged in my head that I didn't give myself, if you'd have given me a 1% chance of walking, I'd rather take the 1% walking than a 99% that I'll be in a wheelchair. It's all about how you look at it. And then when I look back on life, all the adversity I faced was really an opportunity and a lesson, which ended up being a blessing. So I had asked for a larger platform. If I'd been wallowing in self-pity, I would have never been able to take advantage of that platform to touch more people's lives about the power that they possess to overcome anything and still find true happiness and blessings and success within their journey. So there's not a failure I'm going to face that's going to deter me from what I desire. And I think ultimately that's it. I read Victor, I can't remember his last name, but Victor's book about the Holocaust. And he was a psychologist when he went into the Holocaust. And so he continued to do so. He survived. His analysis was, he realized the difference in those that survived such a horrific experience was those who had a reason, could find any reason to live. That's the key. I have just had a friend survive stage 4 cancer. Why? Because she had a reason to live, and no one else survived it in her group, but she did. And it's about finding that moment that drives you. You have to have that. If you don't have that, and if you're not allowed to have that, so we got to stop. I want to say this too, John. We've got to stop minimizing people's dreams, because that's what drives them to any level of success.
You're not saying it to me. Well, you are, but you're saying it to the audience as well. That's not just for me. Then a decade later, right, you're on your feet. You get knocked down again.
Yes.
What changed you? What shook you? What strengthened you after the dismissal, after all the championships from the University of Texas?
Prior to the accident, I had had a lot of success. And throughout that success, I began to falter because I began to not have a reason to want to succeed. And then I found a passion that I wanted to touch more people. And I kept asking God, God, please provide me with a greater platform. Ignorantly, I didn't know that that was the way he was going to do it. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I probably would have just altered what I was asking for. But through that accident, it provided me with that platform. And I knew I had been under a lot of duress, under a lot of stress, and I lost my passion. I was constantly attacked, constantly badgered. In fact, I had gone to the university privately and complained and complained and complained that throughout all my success, I felt like a battered woman. I felt like the woman who runs a successful 500 company and then goes home and gets beaten by their spouse every day. That's how I was feeling. And I was overwhelmed. And at one point, right before all of this happened, um, I had actually passed out the night before the national championship, where we finished second the next day. And and only the people closest to me knew about that. And so I was worn, and I began to pray for peace of mind and peace. And next thing I know, a decision I had done 10 years earlier came back to haunt me. Before it was a decision I made in a relationship prior to the accident. And it had been over 9 years or so after from that point on. But as I prayed about it and as this was revealed, and as they went through the process, God said to me, the truth will set you free. And so when given an option, I chose to tell truth. And whatever that truth led to, I had to deal with it. The most difficult challenge we face is I had been stripped of my physical capabilities, because although I was walking again, I no longer could run. But the thing that I valued most, because I was moving into a place of wanting to go into a place void of ego and into a place of humility and service. Because I've always been a warrior, but I've always been a servant warrior. So now it was time for me to do more service. Now I was stripped of everything that I thought I valued in terms of reputation and person, off of one era. And so being stripped naked, God said to me, will you still serve? And the answer was yes. And so even through that adversity, I found another level of success. And I often prayed on the type of racial tension that I was facing. And I said, let me be a vessel to utilize this platform to create equality. Because I didn't I didn't go into a lawsuit because what I did was right. I went in because you don't get to reward me less, but you also don't get to punish me more. And so it was about correcting a wrong that may not benefit me, but will benefit others behind me. Oftentimes, as an African American and as a woman, we are not giving the privilege to falter. We pay a heavy penalty for it. And that's not fair, because that dampens our capability of succeeding. And I never wanted anyone else to ever have to go through with me. When everything's got difficult for me, I always thought back on, but I don't have dogs and water hoses on me. If they can do that for me to have this opportunity, then I owe them this. And women and minorities have gone through hell to get the opportunities that we have. And so I've always carried that with me throughout everything that I do. And that's why education was so important to me. I made sure that every student athlete that I was blessed to coach got a degree. But I also made sure that they got a degree at the highest level capability. Our grade point average at Florida and at Texas was one of the highest in the institution of all sports in both places, which was unusual because excellence doesn't stop on the field. It starts within, and I wanted every person to feel excellent.
I am going to circle back to something you said there about the racial component here, but what struck me is you talked about losing your passion. And it seems to me that we see coaches all the time now. And you spoke to your faith and to your spirituality here. And listen, people, I think the beauty of the country is we can worship as we choose and do that. But for coaches that are chasing and chasing and chasing, because greatness is a thing, and greatness can lead to great rewards and to great perks and to great fortunes. How would you suggest to some of these people every once in a while that they take a minute? How is it that you would suggest to settle yourself and center yourself so that you're not just, chasing that tail?
First of all, I say stop chasing your tail. That's the first thing I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Success is a way of being. It's not a destination. It's who you are. I come in with that mindset. If we playing checkers, we not quitting until I can win. So if I got to learn why I'm getting defeated, you ain't quitting. And I'm going to be following you, John, and saying, John, can we play one more game for real, though? I promise I won't ask you no more. It's a way of being. This is just who I am. But the other thing is be aware of who you are. Be aware of your limitations. I never felt pressure about winning. I felt pressure about being perfect. I felt the pressure of not being able to make a mistake. I felt the pressure of when I became very successful of always trying to understand that my words carried too much weight, and therefore I must always be a guardian of my words. I always was aware of, because I was such an oddity in the room, that I stood out. And I didn't just stand out because I was Black. I didn't just stand out because I was a female, but I was a driven person of normal qualities of a highly successful person who happened to be Black and female. And that was not the most acceptable way to be. So with that, I'll say this: don't chase success, be success. You can't accomplish something that you aren't already. That's the first thing. The second thing is know yourself. Know where your limitations are. Surround yourself by good people. In the end, when I struggled, it's because I didn't have a strong enough inner circle that I could be a cocoon in and protect me from the outside entities so that I could stay focused. And I can see where that along my pathway created distractions. The funny thing is, right before I was fired, my purpose of wanting to do more was being elevated. And that I began to want to win so that I could do more service, because I realized the greater my successes, the greater my platform. So you've got to find that purpose. And every now and then we lose it, and you've got to recognize when it's not there. And then you've got to take a step back and evaluate you. But we come in with more obstacles. And hopefully by what others have gone through before me and what I went through makes it a little bit easier. But the demands of success don't alter. They don't alter for who you are, what you're going through. It doesn't care. I've coached through 4 siblings' deaths without anyone knowing. I was on my way to the Olympic trials when my sister died. And I was driving and I cried from Texas to Oregon. And then I coached my butt off because other people's dreams don't wait for my life. If I make an obligation, I'm obligated to stay in that moment, to stay present, because I can't change the other factors. And that's what's most important for me. And I think that all too often that the easiest place to dwell is woe is me, because we all have it. We all have enough
Mhm.
reasons that to be discouraged. But ultimately, once you become a leader, you make an agreement with everyone you lead for their goals.
As you are trying to get people to quit chasing their tails and center themselves, we're sitting here right now, and the fact that you and I are speaking uh, by a Zoom, and you're in San Diego, I'm in Connecticut, we are literally 3,000 miles away. And then Felicia and Johnny are down in the Carolinas, and who knows where the audience is spread apart. I mean, this is a hard time for all of us. Pandemic, isolation, people are going stir crazy. We have real mental health concerns about people in
Absolutely.
there. How is, in your opinion, from coaching and seeing people and dealing with psyches all the time, kids that are far from home the first time by thousands of miles to run with you? Do you have thoughts on how people can kind of take care of themselves here and work on their mental health?
You know, they say that adversity doesn't create, it reveals. And this is an adversity that wasn't designed to destroy us. It was designed to reveal us to ourselves so that we can begin to stop pretending to be somebody else. You know, too often we avoid ourselves at all costs. We go shopping, we get involved in all these different organizations, we go to the movies, we pretend, and everything stopped. And guess who we were left having to live with? That person. So it was a time for us to become more united. It was a time for us to do personal healing. It was a time for us to really become more supportive of each other's journey and more understanding of each other's journey. And unfortunately, it was also very revealing of what we've been pretending doesn't exist. Nobody wants to talk about mental health. Nobody wants to talk about it. People want kids to suck it up. Well, you ain't sucking it up. You pretending. You're older than they are. You suck it up.
Mhm.
It's not fair to even tell you that. And so what's being revealed is what's been under the table. Racism was never absent. It was just less obvious. The pandemic revealed it to its highest point for us to be able to resolve it. Whatever we're going through, it is now time to begin through our spiritual journey and our mental journey to become stronger. Everything has been about physical preparation. And I told coaches who I consult, I teach coaches how to coach now. And one of the things I told them, I said, you guys keep leaning into the physical preparation and you're ignoring the mental and spiritual weaknesses that are occurring among our young people. And eventually that's going to come back to haunt you. You've got to catch up. Got to catch up. And I've always believed, as I said, believe it, speak it, do it, thought, word, deed. It's about, you got to create the total warrior. Some of my workouts don't make physiological sense, but they were there to strengthen the inner will. Because at some point in the heat of competition, somebody's going to break. And I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be them. When they go
Mhm.
beyond the institutions, life isn't going to be fair. They're not going to be in this bubble. And they have to be ready for the adversity. And if we are not preparing them for adversity, we're preparing them to falter and fail. And then we want to ignore it. How many people, John, do you hear say, I had no idea they felt that bad about themselves?
Mhm.
No, it's because we refuse to see it. We don't want to deal with it. I've had coaches say, I left because they were mentally draining. That could be your best athlete. That
Mhm.
could be your star. That's what they're in your life in that moment for, It's for you to help them.
There's no question we're making some progress there, because it was for so long, that sign was weakness. As you said, suck it up, that's weakness. Whereas if you break a leg, we can tape it up and it all seems that way. We're winding down here. We've heard some of your philosophies. Again, we want to encourage people, if they can, to go to www.stepupinc.org and register there to go for the bonus question and answer situation, because you guys have questions and I've got two more that I really want to get to. So I may have to run over and ask you there. But we've heard some of your philosophy. We've heard some of your things. I just want you, as we head out here in this original hour, just give me the exclamation point that Bev Kearney would like to impart to athletes and coaches that say, hey, we're not all going to have the Olympic laurel. We're not all going to have the medal. But you know what? Tomorrow we can go out. We can be great. And here's the exclamation point I would give you to go and do that.
It starts with a base of love. I can't give you my all if I don't love you. I can't give it my all if I don't possess love. And it starts from a basis of just the purity of love. I have to find something within every athlete, even the most challenging athlete, even the most challenging staff member that I love, because you can't succeed out of hatred. It may motivate you inches, but love motivates you by miles. And so I've always just had a love and a passion for everything that I do. And it's the thing that drives you beyond obstacles. And it's the thing that doesn't allow you to become so engulfed in your successes that you think you the shit when you're not. It keeps you humble, because you know that there's a greater force out there than you that allowed this moment to happen. You are simply a recipient of greatness. You're not entitled to it. There's a price that goes with everything. And don't be afraid of that price, because I will tell you this, John, after all the experiences I've ever read about, watched, or experienced within my own life, in the end, I've never met anyone or experienced anything, and I can say it wasn't worth it.
Can you look over your left shoulder real quick?
Yes.
So you set us up, didn't you? You were waiting for us the whole time. You were waiting for us the entire time. Bev Kearney, our thanks to you. You were terrific. Good luck to the poor soul that's got to follow you in a master's class the next month when they come through this. If people want to get a hold of you beyond our Q&A, how can they do that? I know you have a website, but what's the best way if people want to continue to kind of tap into some of the things that they like here and they like about Bev Kearney?
Bev Kearney in Pursuit of Dreams is my website, and Coach Bev Kearney is my Instagram. I'm new on there, so I try to check it. And then I have a Facebook. Don't be afraid to instant message. Even in the accident, and from this moment on, I've always tried to answer everything that comes my way. And the reason being is because I want everyone to know that they're important. It may take me a moment, but I always respond. So blessings to everyone, and I look forward to the Zoom.
We will see you in a minute. I'm going to take up some last minute accounting here. A Step Up Inc. Masterclass wants to know your thoughts on the 2021 Masterclass launch. So take a moment, view the survey. The link is provided in the chat, as well as Twitter at stepup.org. You can engage there, and they want to, Felicia and Johnny want to learn more. They want to hear what you have to say. They want to help, as they said at the top, educate, connect, equip, inspire current and future generations of coaches. They are here for you. You see on your screen now the Step Up hosting masterclass series leading up to the Step Up Symposiums. So if you've got a calendar, listen, there's no excuse for not having your day planner out right now. There it is, a Step Up May 3rd and 4th. Next level comes 6th and 7th, and there's the Head Coaches Executive Leadership Academy that is coming your way in May. So again, our thanks to Bev for her expertise and insight. What a delight she was. Felicia Hall Allen, Johnny Allen, we appreciate all your efforts you've made to bring people together here under such extreme circumstances. All the great work done by a Step Up Incorporated. That's terrific. And just on my end, real quick, a thanks to Felicia and Johnny for having me, and Aisha Foy, who is behind the scenes but putting this all together and holding my hand so that we can get there. I will see everybody now here in just moments in the bonus Q&A. We look forward to that. Thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate your time. Great new year and blessings to all of you.